Well, hello and welcome to episode 33 of Our Backyard Garden here in the South Carolina upstate. It is a beautiful Saturday morning. We just finished our front yard garden video. Thought I wanted to take advantage of this nice weather and get both of these videos in while we could. It's September 21st, 2024, and it's just a beautiful day, about 75 degrees, maybe not even that much, maybe 70 right now. And it's headed for probably upper 70s or 80 later today. Thought I'd start off with this nice little pink cleome that is growing right up out of the concrete in our driveway. I've talked many times about our snapdragon, which is doing the same thing. This has been growing since the spring. Although even though it has a few flowers on it, it's largely done for the year, but this cleome is just getting started. Now, most of the cleome are a lavender or purple color. This is one of the pink varieties. We do have a couple of white ones. I don't know if they're still in bloom or not, but you do see a little bit of variety with those. Now, we have a lot of the cleome still growing, although some of them have finished up for the year. They really got to start in the early part of the summer, even late spring. This group in here are all done for the year, and as you can see, they just look completely dead. I'll leave those in place for the time being because their seed pods will scatter, and we'll have probably just as many or maybe even more next year coming up from those. Same thing over here, and all of these are purple ones. I don't see any more pink variety, at least not here. Now, we do have a variety of daisy, which has been growing all year and finally is at a point where they're blooming. These are a different type of daisy than the Shasta daisies that we have elsewhere in the yard, and they do put out a lot of buds, but the blooms don't typically last all that long. So you have to kind of enjoy them quickly before they go away. Now, over on the other side of the, let's see, how do I want to get there? I'll go over this way. Over on the other side of all of this, we have another morning glory. We showed off a couple of them in the front yard. This one is a nice little blue color. It has a few blooms up growing on this vine that is trying to take over our hammock here, and I think I got here just a little bit too late. These are starting to wilt as the sun has come out. I'm going to come up on the porch real quickly just to show a couple of other morning glories that we have up here with different color. This one is just grown from seed. Nice white flower with a pink or purple throat. This one is starting to wilt, but had nice little purple or lavender streaks in it. Here's a better example of that. And you just get all these different varieties, even from the same packet of seeds, which is really fun. Let's see if we have any others over here. Yeah, same thing. These are all growing up on the side of our deck, along with vinca, marigolds, a few other things, a few petunias even, and verbena, geraniums, and then a lot more marigolds over here. These are all from seed. They're huge. I've never seen marigolds so big before. They will need some water today, but they've kind of outgrown their size. They tended to fall over because they can't support their weight. But the flowers are absolutely gorgeous, and they've given us some nice color that we can see on our deck here, and from our living room windows. Yeah, so these are all doing well. They're going to need some water here a little bit later before we get into the day, or they'll collapse with the heat. Even though it's only supposed to go up to about 80 degrees today, it's going to be enough to dry those plants out very quickly. So coming back over here to the flower I'm sorry, to the fire pit. Well, it's sort of a flower pit too. Got some more of these cleome growing up just about anywhere they can find a spot to grow. Growing in the stones, growing up between bricks in the fire pit, you name it. And some of them are just about done now, but some of them are still giving us a lot of color. So those will probably overall continue to bloom until we get our first frost in a few weeks. Up in here, this is primarily a spring bed. Hydrangeas here. Those are summer flowers. We've got our knockout yellow rose here. It's done for the season. Pretty much everything up in here is done for the season. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We had a lot of lilies. If you've been following these videos through the year, we've been doing them every week. We had a lot of Asiatic and Oriental lilies up in here, along with the hydrangeas. A couple of butterfly bushes. This one looks like it's about finished, although its mate is still giving us some very pretty purple blooms. Really nice to see. And then, like with the rest of the garden, we've got zinnias and vinca along the edge here. Nice little purple spiky plant. It was given to us by a friend. Don't know the name of it. That's the only thing. We've done. We've seen a couple of other groups of those over elsewhere in the yard, and we'll see those in a few minutes. Down here, just about everything is finished up. We had a little miniature knockout rose, calla lilies, daylilies, some begonias, which not doing too well. We've had begonias do really well in the past down here, but this year, as I said, was really hot, and it kind of kept them from thriving this year. This is a big red knockout rose with a white clematis growing up on top of it. It looked great in the spring, but it's done for now. Got the first of 6 azalea bushes, which are doing really well with their I want to say fall blooms, but it's actually a late summer sort of thing. They're big in the spring. We get about half as many flowers this time of year, but they're doing really well. Again, giving us some really nice color at a time when other things are starting to fade away. Another type of begonia down here. These have done much better. These bright red ones this year. Biggest problem though is that they would get dried out, and that they would just get too hot in the sun. Big group of impatiens here. These are really the only impatiens that we have in the garden, these 2 clusters, and we just put in a handful of plants back in the spring, and they have taken off. This is one area that has done really, really well, even despite the heat. Impatiens don't usually like a lot of heat. They require a fair amount of water, and they don't necessarily need shade. In fact, I found that out the hard way. Last year I had impatiens along, it was actually New Guinea impatiens that are a lot larger along the pathway here, but there was just too much shade and they did not do well. This group has had just the right combination of heat and water and light, and they're doing very, very well. Other things back in here, we have a gardenia that is not doing anything right now, but it should bloom in January or February. Got lamb's ear, not lamb's wool. What am I saying? And various other plants that have kind of finished up for the year. Then we'll turn around and come back up this side. Some more lamb's ear. Those actually have done very well. They don't do a lot in terms of flowers, but it's a unique plant, and it's I talk about it a lot because it's got such a unique texture to it. It feels just like a lamb's ear, hence the name. A lot of daylilies and climbing roses back in here, but they're all finished for the year. Vinca, some daisies, more of the same type of daisy that we were looking at earlier, giving us little different sort of look, but we'll have to enjoy those quickly because they don't last long. Now I'm looking here, and we've got a big, it's not really a knockout rose, more of a tea rose, but it's been fairly prolific. Hard to see these two blooms. This is from a plant that I have talked about many times. It got really damaged by an attack by beavers earlier in the year. Apparently we have two of them, two of these roses, because I've never seen them coming over on this side. But when they're coming up as buds, they're kind of a combination of yellow and pink, and then when they bloom, they're white and pink, and they're absolutely gorgeous. In most years we've had quite a few of these. This year, not so many, but still getting a couple right now, and it's about the only rose that's still doing anything back in here, aside from this one, which is an interesting story. I've told this on previous episodes, but this was a huge knockout rose, about 8 feet tall, about 8 feet wide, biggest one that we had, and a beaver came in and just utterly destroyed it, chopped off all the branches, and the root, the trunk, and the basis of this plant was still so strong that it has come back all within the last 6 weeks or so, to the point where it's giving us tons of flowers, and there are many more buds on it. So we're going to get a lot of color out of that here in the fall, which will be really nice. Here we have a hibiscus. This particular plant has struggled a bit. Didn't do so well being put in June when it was so hot. But despite that, it has given us actually more flowers, red flowers, than we have a second one you're going to see in a couple minutes. That one has grown much bigger as a plant, but doesn't have so many flowers on it. This one has 2 big buds that are going to come out before too long. And then down in here we have more zinnias and a wildflower that I do not have the name of. This is appears to be related to a blue one that we have up in the front yard, but we just don't know the name of it. We put it in years ago, and it's long since escaped us. Big gardenia here. We have another one of those over on the other side. Those will give us some color in the late winter. And then our flowering climbing rose is still giving us flowers. Trying to see if I can find some buds. It looks like those are the only ones right now that are in bloom. Over here, and we've got a few hanging off the top of the trellis. Way up here. Just a couple of weeks ago, these were fully in bloom, and they tend to come and go over the summer and into the fall. So they'll continue to give us some blooms for another few weeks. And we have 4 of these climbers, and they are all huge. They're all doing really well. Now, I was talking about clematis earlier. Normally it's a spring vine, but you do get some little stragglers that are blooming at other times. Like that one is a Nellie Moser variety with the pink stripes. We have another one, I'm not sure where to best see it. I don't know if I can see it from this side or the other side. Over here I think we can see it. This, actually 2, we have a Giacomini, which is the purple variety, is in bloom, and then next to that are some white ones. You see another white one down there, and just kind of growing all over the place. So that's a cool thing about clematis. You really see the vast majority of them in the spring, but you continue to get flowers various times throughout the year. Now this is the other hibiscus. It's just interesting to see the difference. This plant has really thrived. It's huge. It's probably 5 times the size of its mate over on the other side, and yet hardly any flowers on it. It produced yellow flowers early on, but now it's putting all of its energy into growing the plant, which is not exactly what we had hoped for. Now here, this purple vine here normally has a lot of flowers on it. I'm not sure what has happened to those. Last week even, it had a lot of flowers still in bloom. Maybe it's done for the year, I don't know. We think it's related to a spiderwort, but we're not really sure. And then over in here, we've got some more of these little wildflowers that we don't really know the name of. Behind those, some pink roses that are doing well. This one has never been a particularly prolific rose, but it does give us small numbers of really pretty light pink flowers, not necessarily a real common color for roses, at least not around here. More zinnias, a few veronica left, not many. The veronica are just about finished, which is going to be sad for the bumblebee population because they're always hanging out on the veronica. These long purple stalks of color, doing very well throughout the year. Some more daisies here that are about to start blooming. You can see buds everywhere, but they're not quite ready yet. And then over in here we have a mix of butterfly bush. This is a little different than the one we saw a few minutes ago, even though the color is about the same. The leaves are more of a variegated pattern, and this thing is huge. It has taken up a large portion of the garden here, and including a section that's gone up straight up like a tree. This is all part of the same plant. It's very interesting. And then along with that, some more of these pink roses. We've got the big climbing rose back in there. The two of them are growing together, so you've got kind of a nice mix of the pink and purple all in the same area. Speaking of purple, we've got over here some zinnias, which we put in back in June. They look like they, just in the past week, have kind of started to finish up. We're not getting a lot of new blooms, but these have been more than worth the money we paid for them. Beautiful flowers. They've done extremely well, and so we will make an effort to get those again. Those were a nice cheap find at Walmart. They have done extremely well here in our yard. And then we have, what I can see, one little balloon flower here still hanging on. Looks like we actually have a couple. We're hoping those will come back next year. More zinnias. We've got some marigolds in the back, still doing pretty well. We had some marigolds in the front yard that did not do too well. They got some sort of fungus, we think, and we ended up pulling those out not too long ago. Got a wisteria here. It's been struggling. Not sure what it's going to do. I don't know if it'll give us any flowers next year or not. We'll find out. This is what I always call our dead zone. We have trouble getting water to it, and most of the things that we put in here kind of struggle. We had some knockout roses that were doing well, but then the beaver came and ate them right down to the ground last winter. And we've had a little bit come back, but not a whole lot. We've had a handful of flowers off of them, but not a whole bunch. One dahlia here, which actually the plant itself has done pretty well, but it has not really done much in terms of flowers. So we'll continue around, kind of circle back here, past our weeping cherry, our big wisteria here. Not really doing much right now. Our neighbors have a nice hydrangea which has bloomed in the late summer. Nice big blue flower pods there. And then back in here, got a few more black-eyed Susans. These have just come out since last week. Last week we did not have any of these. This bed is primarily canna. And we have one single red flower up here on top of its stalk. And then a few yellow ones here, still blooming. For the most part, they're about done. I really would have to label these as much ado about nothing when you look at all the greenery here. It looks like a jungle, and yet the number of flowers that we've gotten off of this has really been fairly minimal. It's kind of a disappointment overall. Don't know that I would recommend it, especially the way it has a tendency to take over a bed. So if the bed is constricted with railroad ties or something like that, then I would consider it, especially if you like greenery, because it'll give you a lot of greenery that looks fairly tropical. Limited number of flowers. Although, to be honest, we haven't really fertilized them, and we do have fairly poor soil back here. So I'm sure that plays a role in it, because some people in this area have had canna that have done well. So, you know, you may have more success than we have. Got some growing over in here. They weren't supposed to be. They just sort of took off and have sort of started to take over that bed. We prefer to have mostly irises and daylilies and black-eyed Susans in here. Otherwise, we'll head up. Our trellis is now completely covered, which is exactly what we have always wanted. Hard to see directly into the sun. I'll try to look at it from over here. It took about 3 years for us to get completely covered up with all the vines, but last spring this looked really nice with a combination of pink and red roses, and next year I'm sure it'll be even better, because we also have a lot of clematis up in there, and jasmine as well. Now the jasmine is another prolific vine that is fairly aggressive, has a tendency to want to take over, and you have to chop it back periodically, but it gives some really fragrant blooms, little tiny white flowers. Speaking of tiny white flowers, we have this tea olive up in here. I seem to remember that these were more of a spring blooming flower, but here we are in the late summer, and they've got all their little flowers on them. They're semi-fragrant. It's a faint sort of lemony smell, nothing spectacular. We don't do a lot with this bed, unfortunately. We've just kind of let these things grow. This one has not done especially well. Unfortunately, this bed is really just kind of choked with weeds right now. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do a little bit more with it. Also struggling this year, I haven't really talked about these a lot, but our hostas have absolutely struggled this year, I assume because of the heat, because they've always done well in the past. We've got some new ones growing, but the big plants through here just completely died off. The others look about typical for this time of year, but this particular group through here just more or less disappeared. And then these are doing okay. Again, kind of a lost area. It's not an area that we can see from the house, and we don't really go down the side yard very often, so we haven't really put any effort into that one. And we'll finish up with this bed back here. Still some things going on. This is primarily a spring bed, but there's a lot of color, a lot of activity still, even though it's September. Probably of greatest note are these roses, doing really, really well. Fragrant and falling apart before our eyes. But they have quite a few more buds on them, so we're going to get a lot more color out of those before the year is over. Same thing here with our yellow knockout rose. It's doing really well, and it has a lot of buds still on it. And there's a big weed next to it. We need to pull that out. There's some phlox here, still a few veronica doing well. And then even down here, some veronica hanging in there still. And then a lot of vinca, completely covered over by weeds, unfortunately. Even a little tomato kind of lost back in here. And another one of these pink spiky plants, a couple of them back in here. Don't know the name of them. If anybody has any suggestions, I am interested to find out. Big marigold here that my wife put in from seed. We have some strawberries back in there that we really have not gotten any fruit out of, but we don't fertilize them or really make much of an effort to do anything with them. They're just kind of fun to watch. Some more roses, a calla lily here that's long since finished, and clematis up here, actually giving us a Nelly Moser, giving us a nice bloom, nice big bloom, considering the time of the year. And there's another one back in here too, a couple of them next to each other, buried back there. Again, more zinnias, vinca, and a lot of weeds. Phenomenal number of weeds. They must really like the heat, because we've had more weeds this year than ever before. It's been a little frustrating. Also have, you can kind of see these lavender roses. I can't really get any closer than that, but they're getting ready to open up, so that'll be nice. And another big pink climber. This one climbs up the side of our railing on the stairs to the porch. But really, when you look closely at these things, they're just amazing. The beauty of the flowers themselves, and then just how big these stalks are. You can cut them and bring them in. They don't typically last for more than a day or two, but they're absolutely beautiful while you do have them. And we'll finish up with this little group of zinnias here. These are all from seed. Only been growing for about 3 months, but they're about 4 feet tall, and they've been putting out flowers prolifically the whole time. Some unusual colors or shades, I should say, of pink, orange, purple, and that's about it. So that's our garden for this week, and hope it's sunny wherever you are, as it is here. And until next time, happy gardening.